Well, welcome back to Dartmoor. Once again, we are here for a change. We've got some sunshine. Now, we've got a little bit of a slightly different video today. You've seen unboxing videos and things like that in the past. Well, this time we're going to do an unpacking video. Obviously, I have undone it already and taken bits out, but we'll kind of go through the process. So you put your order into Mountain Road Designs MLD, like I've been doing for the last 10, 11 years, however long it's been now. And you wait and you wait and you wait and you wait. Caption, sometime later, appears on the screen, but we don't bother with that, we do it ourselves. And eventually a white envelope lands on your doorstep. The chances are reasonably high that it will land on your doorstep, and we'll kind of keep going from there, okay? Now, inside your white envelope, which most likely lands directly on your doorstep, you get obviously your shelter, whatever you've ordered. In this instance, we have a brand new tarp tent thing. You get a lot of cord. We'll go through cord in a minute. Now, if you've paid to have your shelter sealed at the factory, then I don't know whether you get seam sealant anyway, but you get a tube of seam sealant. This has not yet been sealed, and you get a piece of, quite likely I'm guessing, repair material in case you put a cut in it or something. So obviously you put your material somewhere safe. Now, because this is the Duomid XL, it appears that you get a pole, a 2-pole connecting connector. I did check with the Lord Bell if this was what I thought it was. This actually is something that the old timers of Colin Ibbotson, where I sort of learnt a few of my bits, I was using like 10 years ago to connect poles. Now, whether this is something new that Ron's done, I don't know. But it's the first time I've seen one of these. But we will go through the pole connecting system later on. This is tried and tested, I have to say. So, you know, you really don't have to worry about that. I mean, I don't use it. I use a pole. I'll go through poles as well. We've always got to go through our poles and our erections on this channel, and that's it. Once your parcel arrives, obviously the first thing that you want to do is to take your shelter out. Just luckily we haven't got any wind out here. Just take the shelter out and just give it a once over at home. And like I said, we've not seam sealed it. We will do that here. It's nice to see that MLD has put I call it a metal loop. It's not metal obviously, but they've put a more solid loop around here, and that I have to say is a really big improvement on certainly on the ones that I have that have this system on the top. And obviously in the corners you have a line lock and then a clip on the inside. Thankfully MLD are using the clips here on keep using these clips inside. Those little D-band things, they might be light and useful, but I have to say these clips are much easier to use, so keep using these clips. So that's basically your shelter. We'll just get it set up in a minute. Now I just want to be a little bit careful that nothing gets blown away, so we're going to put something heavier. Now you will receive, I say, probably a good 40 feet of cord. I think I had 40 or 50 feet of cord. You'll get a lot of cord. One thing I probably would suggest, actually, if you've never set up one of these shelters before, what might be a good idea is just get some regular string that you have in the house, just regular string. Cut that regular string into sizes you've got no idea what you're cutting. We'll cover cutting in a minute. But if you've never done it and you've never seen this video, which kind of makes this, what I'm going to say, superfluous, but tell your friends, if they've never cut cord and they don't know what size to cut the cord, before you start cutting it, get a ball of string and cut your string into about 2 to 3 feet pieces and practice with that, the length, and make sure that you got your lengths right with string before you go cutting this cord, which MLD send. I highly recommend that you use the cord that Ron sends. Do not go for lighter, thinner cord. Use what is sent, or make sure you get a minimum of 2.5 to 2.8 millimeters. I always thought it was 3 millimeters, but I did read the Lord Bell on one post said it's 2.5 to 2.8, so I would probably go to the 2.8. But whatever, I think use the cord that is supplied. Don't use 2 millimeter cord. It's too thin. Again, going back the many years that I've been using this stuff, I have heard that people tried using other cord on it. In the days gone by, Colin Ibbotson practiced with 2 millimeter cord, and it slips. It's your shelter isn't going to stay up. So use what's supplied, and if you're unsure, you think, oh, that Hobbs, he doesn't know what the F he's talking about, I want to make sure that I've got my cord exactly how you want it. Cut string, practice with string. When you know that's the lengths that you want, obviously don't go camping with your string, for goodness sake, and then you can cut your cord. Now, if you've got a tarp or a trail star, the sizes that we're talking about now will be different. So in other words, if you've got a tarp or a trail star, you're going to want longer pieces than what we're talking about. Exactly, because it's a tarp or a trail star, you need those extra angles and things like that. So the lengths that we've got here for the Duomid XL, which could be Duomid XL, Super Mid, Solo Mid, any of those mids with doors on them, the sizes that we talk about today should be plenty. You shouldn't really need much more than what we're going to discuss today. If you've got the trail star or forget a tarp, because they're like completely different. If you've got a trail star, I would suggest 3 feet or about 1 meter on 9 tie-out points. That's assuming that Ron sends that much, I'm not quite sure. But I would go 3 feet where possible, and 10 feet, which is what, 2.5 meters for the door line. Because I find with the trail star you need flexibility with pitching, but with the Duomids and things like that, you know, really, probably you could even say like 1 foot or 18 inches would be enough. The problem is though, by the time you put a knot in one end, like a loop, and by the time obviously you've put the other end in through your line lock, and then, you know, you've obviously got to have some slack, you've probably only got about a foot left, which is just about right. One foot is, you know, is enough for what's left after you've done your line locks and your knots. Okay, so in total I would suggest that you cut down to 2 feet your cord, and 2 feet should be enough. I've gone and taken a bit of a chance on it and done it myself already, but I've cut 1, 2, 3, 7, 8. I've got 8 pieces of 2 foot, nothing's on one end, and then this end I've just put a regular loop on it there. I'll show you how to do the loop. I'm sure you know, I'm sure it's pretty obvious, but take your cord, loop it, and then just literally just tie it around into a knot, you know, like that. Quite simple. That's the simplest of all knots, and that's a tight knot. You don't need any fancy knots for, you know, for putting your peg through. That's a good knot, and that isn't going to go anywhere. So I've got one piece here which is about 14 feet still. So this piece here is still 14 feet because I wasn't quite sure what I needed to do. So I've still got that one piece there of 14 feet. And then I've got 1, 2, 3 pieces which are 5 feet. Some people, and I have to say, I think even the Lord Bell does say the same, but personally I've never done it. But what you might want to do is maybe make these lines a little bit longer, and then when you do your line coming down from the midpoint, you can save on a peg and use one peg for your mid tie out point halfway down the side, and you loop here. I tend not to bother. I prefer the flexibility of being able to pitch this where I want without having to think about it, especially if you're getting a low pitch. It's just a personal thing. I'll show you how you do your line lock, because you need to get these correct. You take your line lock and you go, oh no, I'm sorry. You go, oh God, no. You go, oh no, oh God. You go up the bottom. You go up the bottom. Oh no. You go up the bottom. So the bottom one, you go up the bottom, and then you go round the front. Oh no. And then you go round the front and in the hole, and then you pull tight. And then that's how you do your line lock. Oh God. So you go up the bottom. Oh God, no. So you go up the bottom. You go round the bend. Oh no. You go round the bend and then down the front hole. Oh God, no. And then down the front hole. And then and that's everybody turned off now, Tony. Oh God, there's no hope. And then basically you have this system here. So you obviously put that in the ground, and then you can pull on the top, and that won't slip. It's the only time when when you're going in the front that you don't want any slip. Well, anyway, so yeah, so that's how you do your line locks. Okay, right. Once you've put your line locks in, or once you've put your cords in your line locks, and I will do all the others in a minute, you have to erect your pole, and you have three options for this. One, or maybe there are other options as well, but basically you can use your walking poles. So make sure walking poles multi-use items. Now, like I said, you can use that attachment, so I will show you how to do that. I might do that in a separate video, so make sure you like, subscribe, share, hit that notification button to all for other videos on this trip. You can also use a pole connector, so I might just briefly talk about that when I do that. Or, and I'm not sure whether it worked for this shelter, because it certainly works for the Super Mid, and this should be similar height. You can get a custom made pole setup. Now, I must admit, I like to use this. This is a little bit thicker and chunkier than the one that Ron uses. Ron, I would go just a tiny bit thicker. I did have an MLD one. I just felt that I wasn't 100% like convinced that its rigidity would be enough. So I got this one from another American company called Ruta La Cura or something like that. If someone knows what it's called, put a comment below. I never remember. I just got it once a few years ago, but it's you know, I use this, and like I said, Ron does sell them, so you'll probably be fine with that. But I wanted this because it's a little bit thicker for the Super Mid. So I'll try this with this shelter. So for those that think that he only uses MLD, don't use anything, you know, this isn't MLD stuff, you know. So, you know, I do use other stuff as well occasionally. So basically what I'm going to do now is I'm going to thread all of my line locks here. So like I said, you go up the bottom and then down the front. You see, when you haven't got a mind like mine, you can actually say that with a straight face. I'm going to call that video an unpacking, unboxing video and basic setup video. So I hope you found this first part of this MLD experience helpful and useful. Make sure you come back immediately, because we're going to get my pole and erect the shelter. I'll see you in a minute in another video.